can't see, but I can still... Hey, this is your faceplate.
Was my mask, just as I was once a man. Useless, all useless. I was a man. Yes, oh yes.
Joe! He never gives up. He's always there, fighting for freedom over land and air. G.I.Joe!
Hello everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show. What we are taking a look at today is, of course, something fairly unique. It is the Hasbro G.I.Joe Classified Series San Diego Comic Con 2024 exclusive Once a Man Cobra Commander. And of course, there is a lot of controversy circling this figure right now. We're not going to ignore that, but I'm not going to talk about it right here. I'll talk about this figure, the issues it's caused, at the end of the video in place of the wrap-up when we get to the tail end. But for right now, let's just look at the packaging, let's look at the figure. I didn't go to Comic-Con. I was lucky enough that I was able to get mine when it went up for sale on Hasbro Pulse the first time, when it was going up for sale, not for pre-orders. I do say lucky because I did get mine like pretty much in the first minute of the hour. That's why I have mine here already, because it was in stock. They were able to ship it. Like I said, I didn't go to Comic-Con. I just got very fortunate. The packaging right here, the packaging for me is kind of a mixed bag right here. That up front, there's no labeling, there's no titling, there's nothing else except this image. And you can see it looks a little screwy because this is a lenticular flap, a lenticular cover for it. That if we tilt it back a little bit, you can see there's Cobra Commander with his mask still on. Tilt it forward, there's Cobra Commander in mid-mutation. You can see he's really losing his humanity right there, more so than what he probably was before. And then we bring it forward a little bit more, and there is the fully reptilian, the fully snaked version of Cobra Commander with his little T-Rex arms right here. Now, also in this image, we have Falcon down here, we have Globulus, we have Nemesis Enforcer, both from Cobra-La, and then down here, we have Blind Roadblock with Cobra Commander hanging off of his back, trying to guide him through, what was it, the Arctic, I think, or was it the Himalayas? I can't remember. I think it might have been the Himalayas. I don't remember. This is, of course, part of Cobra-La. This is from the G.I. Joe movie from the 80s, the animated movie from the 80s. And even the idea of Cobra-La causes some controversy among G.I. Joe fans. But that's something that we'll talk about later. So we have this lenticular front cover right here. If we flip it over to the side, we just have a real nice close-up still image of the Commander in his fully snaked form. On this side, we have a good image of the Commander mid-mutation with his helmet on, his reptilian chest bared, and then back here, we have that in-between state with his mutated face, mutated body, and this is basically the front image on back, just without the lenticular effect to it. And once again, we can see Falcon, Roadblock, Nemesis Enforcer, and the Lord of Cobra-La, Globulus, right here. Up top, there is the window, the Cobra logo, the number. You can see they even did the number a little funky just to give it a little bit more character. On the bottom, barcode, all of this. Now this is a flapped box, and this is where my first real issue with the packaging comes from. Listen, yeah, it has Velcro on it. That's kind of cheap, especially if you're going to have this unique imagery right here. You've gone to all of this work with the packaging. You can see that the lid is even warped a little because it's just the cardboard lid. It has lenticular image on the front, and this flap is bowing a bit. And then you have these ugly black Velcro dots here that, truthfully, this should have been metal and magnets. I mean, they did it last year for the Crimson Strike Force pack, 3-pack. This should be like some metal in this flap and some magnets over here rather than these black dots. We do have a really nice image of the Commander, and I believe this is the Commander that we're going to be getting later in the year with the vac metal faceplate. You can see him trapped in this giant clam. You can see Globulus back there on his hover blob, Nemesis Enforcer in flight, and the Cobra statue. Something very interesting about this to me is that there's no Royal Guard and there's no Pythona, the other known members of Cobra-La. They're nowhere to be found on this packaging. I find that very interesting, which I originally thought that maybe Globulus, Pythona, and the Royal Guards were going to come in like a 3-pack or something like that, but now we know Nemesis is coming on his own, and it makes me think that Globulus is going to be released on his own as sort of like a figure and vehicle pack, like how Serpentor was with his air chariot, that it'll be Globulus and his hover blob. Over here, we have the open window packaging for the Commander, where we can see the main figure, we can see his different head sculpts, his broken visor, we can see the accessories that he comes with, and of course he comes with his fully mutated snake form, which this is probably, other than the body, this is probably the most unique item for this package, for this pack-in, because all of the other accessories look like they're the accessories that are going to, that either came with the Cobra Commander we got with the Hiss Tank, or will be coming with the retro card Cobra Commander that we're going to be getting. It doesn't look like it has the globe, even though it has the hand that holds it, but it doesn't have the globe with the Cobra wrapped around it. So that is it for the packaging. Let's close this back up. We'll open it up top, and let's get him out, and let's take a look at the Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified Series San Diego Comic Con 2024 exclusive Once a Man Cobra Commander. Okay, so here he is, the Commander, out of his box, and putting the tape measure to him, we can see that he is roughly 6 3/8 to the top of his head. So I go back and forth on Cobra-La a lot. Even when I was a kid, I was kind of on the fence about them. That I liked them as a concept, but as part of the G.I. Joe lore, I really didn't think they had any place in my personal lore, which was typically based off of the comic books. Now, this is a monster. And that's one of the reasons why I did like Cobra-La as a concept, because if you watch the channel, you know I really dig the monsters, like the Universal monsters, things like that. And Cobra-La very much is basically like this big kingdom of monsters. And that is what appealed to me. But having them as part of G.I. Joe, I really didn't dig the lore. Having said that, let's take a look at our Once a Man Cobra Commander, that this is from the G.I. Joe the movie, the animated movie, and this is after Globulus deemed that Cobra Commander was useless, he hadn't followed through on his plan, Serpentor was taking over now, and he kind of devolved him, that he pulled off the mask, you saw him start to mutate. As a matter of fact, I don't think this form lasted very long. We were also led to believe that he was kind of already ugly and jacked up underneath the mask, underneath the helmet. There was one episode in particular that I can remember that Destro walked in on the Commander eating dinner, and Destro was like, "Commander, your mask, please." And the Commander put the mask back on and was like, "It takes a strong stomach to watch me eat." So I'm not saying that was foreshadowing, but I think the idea always was that there was something like seriously jacked up, hideous, monstrous about the Commander underneath the mask. And once we delved into the world of Cobra-La, we found out what that was. So Globulus turned him into this. Like I said, he didn't last long in this form, and then he eventually took on the form of his fully realized serpent form, which we'll be taking a look at later. And then after the movie, Baroness was able to revert him back to this. I don't think in the cartoon he ever got back to a fully human form. But look at the head sculpt on this. That is a transition. Look at the head sculpt. Look at the reptilian, the scaling, everything about it. The maw of teeth right here. I love how there's like this asymmetry to it that like just adds to the whole feeling of some, like just being off, the hideousness, the monstrousness, the uncomfortableness of when you look at it. Also, he has just one eye up here over his brow, while the other eyes are here underneath his main eye on each side. He has 4 along the bottom here. He has 3 along the bottom here, 1 up top, and then his 2 mains. He has 10 eyes. That's 2 more than what a spider has. Globulus, what are you doing here? I love the detailing, the sculpting, the scaling of his torso right here. I think they did a really good job with that. That you can see like the smaller scaling right here on the elbows, but then on the, and like down here at the waist, but then on the exposed parts, he has sort of like this scaled armor that's part of his body as well. I think that is really cool. The hands are just, you know, the basic hands that come with the Commander. We don't really have a Commander to compare this to. The Retro Card Commander hasn't come out yet, but we do have the Hiss Tank Cobra Commander that has the Mickey Mouse logo on it. And I haven't opened mine, but you can see that the legs are the same. It's reuse from basically the torso down. Everything up, obviously, is new, and I believe the head sculpt for the Cobra Commander is just reuse, which for his helmeted version, which we'll see of this in a second. But yeah, the legs and the feet, everything from the waist down is reuse. The hands are reuse as well. As a matter of fact, a lot of the accessories are reuse. The only thing, like I said, he doesn't come with is the globe with the snake around it. So taking a further look at this, I also like how they did the torn tunic, his torn shirt right here with the collar ripped. You can see that things are ripped and tattered, that the mutation just like sort of hulked him out of his clothing. I think that's really cool. This is also a very, very soft rubber. So if you pull his arms back, you can actually take this off of him. So you can strip this off and he can have just like the bared serpent body. But also look at this. Look at the paint job on here. The paint that's going to become like part of his Cobra hood when he transforms. That is some really nice attention to detail. That is some really nice paint apps right there. I don't think in this form he ever took this off, so we didn't get to really see his back until the full transformation. But so we don't know if that was actually there as part of the cartoon, but I really appreciate that they added it in for the figure. He just looks monstrous. He looks imposing. The only thing that my complaint about this form is he has his gloved hands here, which are fine. You know, you expect there to be reuse, you expect there to be gloved hands, especially whenever we put his masked head on him to begin with when he's not so fully transformed right here. But I do wish that he came with a pair of like clawed reptilian hands to put on here, so that like if you take his jacket, if you take the remnants of his jacket off, if you have this head on there, then you could have like these taloned hands and really just go full monster with him just with wearing the pants. Because you can even see down here that his pants are muddied and dirty as well. That like nothing is clean about this. This is just a really, really hideous version of Cobra Commander. And as a monster, as a member of Cobra-La, I dig it. But like I said, as part of the G.I. Joe lore, not so much. But he does look cool. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the articulation while we have the tunic off so we can see everything that moves. His head will do a full 360 spin. You can see there's even a ball joint there at the neck that gets a little loosey-goosey right there. He can look up fairly well. He can look down fairly well. There is some tilt side to side. His arms will do a full 360 spin. He has the butterfly joint with some really good movement right there. The arms will come up to 90. I was really worried that like armored plating right there wouldn't let him come up, but they do come up fairly well. He has a bicep swivel. He has double jointed elbows with some really good travel, especially considering he has these armored scales going on. Wrists pivot. Wrists hinge up and down. These are his trigger hands, so they hinge up and down. The other ones, I believe, hinge in and out. We'll take a look at those in a moment. You can see that he has the ab crunch right here, that he can go forward fairly well. He can crank back fairly well, and they even continued the sculpt going up this torso piece right here, so that even when you do crank him back, it's not just flat and smooth, that scaling continues, so it works to not break the illusion. Same thing whenever he goes forward, he still has like these spine scales going up the back. I appreciate whenever they do that. He has a ball joint at the waist that lets him do a full 360 spin. Not a whole lot of movement backwards with the ball joint, even less movement forward with the ball joint. Little bit of side to side with the ball joint, but not really much. Drop down hips that will come up to there, and they will come out to 90. Put it back in. We have a thigh cut. We have double jointed knees, once again with some really good travel to them. Despite not having a boot, there is a cut right here at the ankle so that we do get a boot twist right there, which I like. The ankles will rock back. The ankles will rock forward. There is a forward-facing pin for some rocker. And while we're down here, even the red stripe of his pants, like there are some clean paint apps on this, especially when you take a look at all of the eyes that he has. There is no overspray. Did some real good attention to detail with all of the paint apps of this version of Cobra Commander. Out of the box, Cobra Commander comes with a pair of trigger hands. He comes with a pair of clenched fists. And he comes with this pointing hand and this open grasping hand. This open grasping hand is what the other commanders would use to hold the globe with the serpent in it. And of course, this is his, pointing, I command you to go that way hand. Now, when you pop the hands off, this is another reason I wish they would have included a set of like taloned hands, that when you pop the hands off, this cuff piece can come off as well. And you can get an even better look at like the plating on his forearm right there, which, like I said, if we can do this, and they would have included some taloned hands, and then you take these off, and then you take this off, and you have this head, you could have like a fully realized, like just monstrous Cobra Commander right there. But this is what we got for the hands. Oh, and these hinge in and out, just like the fists do. So the trigger hands that he comes with are the only ones that hinge up and down. Not only does he have additional hands, but he has at least one other head sculpt, which right here he has his monstrous snake head that we've been looking at through the whole of this video. But you can pop this off, and then he does come with a helmeted head right there that kind of looks like a little stocky when you put it on, because of how low it comes down to meet the tunic. Like, I don't think, see that if you pull this off, it looks a little better. But because the tunic rides so high and it has that popped collar, it gives the illusion of being stocky. Now, the faceplate is not vac metal. It's just a very shiny silver painting. The only one that I think is going to be vac metal is the one that we get with the retro card. But they did go ahead and paint the C4 hatch on top of his helmet right here, which cracks me up that they painted this in the cartoon, but I don't think they ever actually addressed what it was for. Sometimes it was just outlined, sometimes it was red, sometimes it was white, sometimes it was silver, but I don't think in the cartoon they ever actually acknowledged what this hatch, or stripe for that matter, was for. You can see there's the seam line going across. It looks like there might be a little thinning of the paint back there at the back, but this is the standard Cobra Commander helmeted head that I believe is the same that comes with the Hiss Tank Cobra Commander, and it will probably be the same that's coming with the retro card Cobra Commander, just with a vac metal visor. Looking at it from the side, you can see where the lip of the helmet meets the collar, and it does hinder his ability to look up a little. He can still look down fairly well, still has the full 360 spin, and does still have a little bit of that head tilt up, and the neck piece moved again. But there we go. Still does have a head tilt. Just looking up is really the only thing that's hindered. So looking at his accessories, he doesn't come with a lot, and the first one we're going to take a look at is this small dagger right here. That I like that it has the silver blade. Whoops. The handle is molded in black plastic, and then we have a gold pommel down here at the bottom of the dagger. I like this. It looks cool. I feel like they put more effort into it than what it needed. I appreciate just the silver, but then adding the extra paint of the gold pommel down there, that's a really nice touch. And that fits into his hip sheath right here. And that just slides in, and it has a nice grip. It's not going to fall out, and it looks good on him. And the other items that he comes with, of course, are his backpack and hairdryer set right here. And we all know what this is, the hairdryer gun that the original vintage figure came with, that I didn't get what it was back then. I don't get what they were trying to do now. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be some sort of laser pistol, but it 100% looks like a heat gun or a hairdryer, especially with those like veins right there at the front of it. And then this is the backpack that he wears. You can see the Cobra logo right there telling you which side is up. There is a single peg that fits into his back. Let's just set that right there for now. That this will peg in. It's a very soft rubbery peg, but it has a fairly good grip on it. You know, a little bit of overhang right here, but it fits on his back just like on the vintage figure. And then you take this and you pop it in upside down like this. And then he is wearing his pistol on his back, which I don't think he ever wore this in the cartoon, to be completely honest. I don't think he ever had this on his back in the cartoon. I'm pretty sure they just added it in just because it's a Cobra Commander figure and they needed some accessories to pack in with it. to qualify, you know, the raised price. But it does look cool. I mean, it fits him. You put the helmet on him, you could have something going on, but I don't know too many people that would pose it with that on there because it wasn't there. And the last thing we have to take a look at is his cracked visor from his helmet right here. And if I am remembering the movie correctly, because it has been some time since I've seen it, I'm pretty sure that when Globulus started the transformation, the visor was cracked. Commander pulled the visor off of his helmet and threw it, and then covered his hands with his face. The helmet came off, and then when he looked up and uncovered, that's when he was this. So it's cool that they give us the cracked visor. My issue is that I wish it was interchangeable with the visor that we have on the head sculpt, on the helmet sculpt that it comes with, but it's not. It's just an accessory right here. And if we flip it around on the back, there is some real tech going on in here. Let me get a grip on it. I don't know if you can see that. Let's get the light on. Can you see that in there? I guess those two red dots are what he was supposed to be looking out of. I don't know. I always pictured that this was just like a mirrored glass visor. They went a little too deep into this, but the cartoon was always a heavy sci-fi lean. I mean, everybody used lasers for goodness sakes. So this is cool. I appreciate that they added it in there, but other than posing with some photos, there's really not much to do with this. And now here's our fully transformed Cobra Commander out of the box, and putting the tape measure to him, we can see that he is approximately 3 inches to the top of his snake head. So taking a look at the fully transformed version of Cobra Commander, this is basically just a plastic slug. There is virtually no articulation to this at all. This is not bendy at all, which I was hoping that it would be. As a matter of fact, like, the tail is a little bendy at this point right here, but this is all fairly solid. Like, you can still bend it out, but I do feel like you could break it right there. He has some articulation, that the elbows are on a swivel joint, both of them. This one kind of gets in the way of his own head sometimes, but that's about it as far as articulation goes. There's not even anything in the elbows or the wrists, nothing in the head. It's just those shoulder joints right there. Now, having said that, I do think the sculpt on this is fantastic. I like how they've done up all 10 of the eyes, having that metallic blue right there. You got 3 along the bottom and 1 like back here at the tear duct. Same thing over here, 3 along the bottom. Then that 1, they all evened out as he transformed, CC. No worries there. You can even see the notch in his tongue where he would spit venom from. That is some really nice attention to detail on the inside of his mouth. That looks almost organic, just with the paint job and everything. Like, that is funky in there. Let's get a light in there. And yeah, that is so gnarly inside there. They did some really good work on that. Okay, we'll stop obsessing about that. But you can see how they continued the sculpt of the armor plating on his underbelly. He even has the armor plating on his shoulders right here. On the back, you saw when I turned it around the last time that the hood that flared out, this, you can see exactly where this came from on his back because of the paint job. And I think that's a really cool touch point, that you can look at this and then look at the figure and know where this came from, where the hood grew out of. That is a really cool touch to me. I really like that. The whole thing, oh yeah, and then you have the armor across the top of the head, once again getting some really good scale work right there. The whole thing looks good. I appreciate it as a pack-in. Now, I know what everybody is wondering. Because of how stiff this is, can you do the roadblock thing? Well, here's our version 1 roadblock, which actually looks like our version 2 roadblock from the vintage line. And this is as close to the roadblock that was in the movie at the time as we have. And the answer is yes. You just have to be a little delicate with it. Don't force it. Just try and massage it on the whole way and sort of roll it around his body to get him in the position that he needs to be. It's a little tricky, and I do feel like at certain points, like, see, you can even see right here, it's starting to separate. That I do feel like it might be breaking a little already. You can put his hands on his shoulders, and there you go. It's not as high. He's not riding as high as he should, I don't feel. But you can get him around Roadblock's waist. It's just far more delicate than I was hoping it would be. Like, I really thought this was going to be like a big piece of bendy so that you could get it wrapped around and not worry about that. It feels delicate, I'm not gonna lie. Like, even right now, I'm a little worried that I'm breaking it, even as I'm trying to show you guys. There, you turn it a little bit more. So if you have it, or if you plan on getting it, and you want it specifically for this reason, just be aware. Maybe once you put it on, never take it off. I don't know. I just feel like this is separating already, and for something that they advertised doing this, it doesn't feel like it was made to actually do this, although you can't deny how cool that looks. And now for size comparison, here he is beside the Hasbro G.I.Joe Classified Series Cobra Commander from Wave 1 and the PulseCon exclusive Serpentor. And I may be alone on this, but I actually really like the classified version of Cobra Commander better than the classic version. This just looks more Commander. Here he is beside Hasbro Marvel Legends Doctor Doom from the Amazon exclusive Cabal 3-pack and Daredevil Elektra. Here he is beside Valaverse Action Force Bone Collector version 2 and Pandora. Because this is the only representation of the Monster Force that we have so far, here he is with the Joe Fest exclusives Blood Prince Dracula and Omen of Darkness the Forgotten King. Here he is with Mattel Masters of the Universe Masterverse New Eternia Battle Armor He-Man and Masters of the Universe movie Skeletor. Here he is with NECA Toys Dungeons & Dragons Warduke and Grimsword. And finally, here he is with Airborne and Me from the G.I. Joe Steel Corps. I so wish that these big companies like Mattel and Hasbro would go back to convention exclusives being something like a repaint or something new and funky that they came up with just for the convention exclusive. To make it something that's part of the main line, something collectors might want, that's kind of a raw deal. Fresh Monkey Fiction, with their two figures that we just looked at in the size comparison, Blood Prince Dracula and Omen of Darkness Forgotten King, that's the way you do it. That's the right way you're supposed to do it. They're translucent figures of figures that are coming out already. They're not part of the main line. They're not something that everybody might want. And they're things that if you can't get your hands on it, it's not really that big of a hit to the collection. And it may be something that it might become like one of your grail items, I guess, that eventually you'd be like, okay, I want to get this. I got to track this down at a convention. I got to find this online. I got to find a decent price, whatever. That's part of the hobby. That's actually, for me, part of the fun of the hobby. But something like this, Once a Man Cobra Commander, especially when they're doing this big push for Cobra-La with Nemesis Immortal coming out, and then eventually getting Globulus, Pythona, and the Royal Guards, that's a big miss. Things like this shouldn't be hard to get. Things like this shouldn't be convention exclusives. I am very lucky that I got this. I am very aware of that. Especially with Cobra-La making this big comeback, that if you've been reading the comics, Cobra-La is once again the driving force behind Cobra canonically in the Energon universe. And I understand that it used to be that if you didn't go to the convention, you didn't get it at all. Online sales have made it possible for you to get items that aren't at the convention. And I appreciate that. I get that. I understand that that's gravy. But if you're going to do something like that, 5 per customer, which is what it was on Hasbro Pulse, is a raw deal as well. Let's be honest. We all know where those 5 per are going. You can go on eBay right now and find them. This is made even more infuriating that since I've talked to people that were actually at Comic Con where you could originally buy this figure, you could only buy one at Comic Con from what people have been telling me. So even the people at Comic Con couldn't get more than one. Having said that, I do feel like this is one of those figures that if you didn't get it, it's not going to leave that large of a hole in your collection. I understand if you're a fan of Cobra-La, if you were a fan of the movie, if the movie really spoke to you and you've been waiting for a figure like this, I understand that not being able to get it, that leaves a very, like, that's really like a real stab in the back, it feels like. I get that. There is the thought that this is going to be available for PulseCon, just like the other convention exclusives were in previous years. And up until last year, I would have continued to believe that. But last year, I don't think Chuckles was made available at PulseCon. And I think a lot of people missed out on Chuckles as well. So I can't say for certain that this will be available for PulseCon, because there's been at least one break in that norm. Who knows? There might be limited quantities available. There might be limited quantities available off and on like there have been for Mindbender and Serpentor over the years. But there's no surefire way of knowing. Now, having said all of that, if you can get your hands on him, if you are a fan of Cobra-La, if you were fortunate enough to get your hands on him, it is a pretty solid figure. For as much as I don't like Cobra-La as part of the G.I. Joe lore, I do appreciate them as what they are, monsters. The face sculpt on this guy, the face sculpt on Cobra Commander is just so monstrous and so barbaric and so grotesque that even as a kid I was like, why does he have 10 eyes? And why are they just wherever? The animators were just having fun, let's be honest. Like, they were just like, we're only going to get a chance to do something like this once. Let's make him as ugly as we possibly can without completely terrorizing kids. If we can't kill Duke, we're going to do this to the Commander. I even like how the Snake version of him, like, you can actually draw a direct correlation between, like, the fully transformed Snake version and the half-man, half-snake version. You can see where, like, the armor plates line up. You can see on the paint apps how, like, the design on the back of his Cobra hood lines up with what's on his back. You can even see how, like, the eyes just sort of, like, fell into place as his transformation took over. And, like, all 10 of the eyes are lined up once he's fully transformed. I do like that. I think that is a really cool touch. Some people watching this may not even know what Cobra-La is. Well, I do plan on doing a, like, sort of history of Cobra-La video. I'm hoping that will come out, if not this month, then at the beginning of next month, because I think it would be cool to go over Cobra-La, where they were in, like, how they were developed, what the plan was at Hasbro, what the plan was with the cartoon, were they always attached to Serpentor, and what their new plan is moving forward with the Energon universe. As much as I'm not into them being part of the lore, they are actually a fascinating piece of G.I. Joe history. Hello, and don't go yet. Before you do, please remember to do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. If you already are a subscriber, you rock. If you like what we do here and you want to help the channel grow, please consider becoming a YouTube channel member or a Coffee monthly subscriber, where for $1 a month you can get access to member benefits like our monthly membership video. This month it is the Mezco 112 Collective Storm Shadow. So until next time, my friends, play well, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, thank you for watching.